If you've ever been in downtown Richmond near the campus of Virginia Commonwealth University, you might have noticed a building that looks like it should be somewhere in Asia. It's actually an historic theater that's had several names over the years, but it's always been in one of the most unique buildings in the Commonwealth. This is Virginia Roots, a journey through Virginia's iconic theaters where we travel the Commonwealth to learn how where performances happen can influence the audience experience. Today, we're visiting the Altria Theater in downtown Richmond. With 3,600 seats, it's one of the largest historic theaters on the East Coast, and it's been home to national tours of all kinds. The Altria has a unique history dating back 100 years, and it's also an excellent place for us to learn about the vocabulary used by cast and crew to describe various places in any theater.
The theater initially opened in October 27th of 1927, so just about 100 years ago. And that was originally open as the Shriners Akka Temple. They acted as a building for members of their group, hotel. There was a pool down in the basement, which is now a storage area. We had a shooting range for the local police and performances. As you can see behind me, there was a functioning theater. Something unique that you'll see are lots of gold elements. We have lots of rich red and blues throughout the theater. There are specific murals throughout the ceiling and around the grand tier and the balcony. Out on the first floor in the lobby, there are murals that wrap around the entire ceiling, and those are all recreated to be original. But I think what really makes this place special is the artists and the touring acts that come through the facility. I mean, we've had just about anyone and everyone you can think of. Elvis Presley, Frank Sinatra. We've had Broadway, including The Wiz, Hamilton, Wicked. We've had Prince. We've had the Supremes. The list just really goes on and on.
What attracts all of these great artists and shows? A lot of it has to do with the number of seats in the theater, which makes it profitable for big acts to come to Richmond. The stage is designed so there's room for all of the equipment, cast, and crew to come in and set up their show for one night or as long as a month. And having a common vocabulary for theatrical terms makes it possible for these groups to come in and immediately start setting up.
So we get our classic old school rock and roll crews who are coming in and they know exactly what's happening, but they're very chill. But then we also have Broadway national tours coming in who are very structured and very large scale, and they're everything is run perfectly down to the millisecond.
Here are a few of the terms that everyone working at the theater needs to know.
Front of house is anything from the stage in front of the stage. So any audience areas, any areas open to the public. So that's lobbies, that's box office, that's lounges, bathrooms, any of that. But it's normally noted by the proscenium line. So there's two different things that are called a proscenium. So there is a proscenium theater, which is a type of theater, which is what the Altria is. And that's that, iconic picture frame look, right, that a lot of theaters have. But a proscenium arch or a proscenium line is that exact picture frame, whereas just a proscenium theater is the type of theater, the style of theater. The pit or the orchestra pit is kind of exactly what it sounds like. It's a pit in the orchestra that normally houses musicians for shows. So instead of having the band and the musicians on the stage taking up space for the performers, sometimes we put them in the pit. It's a little bit lower than our orchestra level, so that people who are sitting in our front few rows are not having to weave and look through people as they're watching the stage. The mezzanine is the lowest tier of elevated seating in a theater. So for example, our theater here, we've got our orchestra level, which is our ground floor, and then we've got one tier up, which is our mezzanine. We call it a grand tier, but it's the same thing. And then we've got one more up, which is our balcony, which is the uppermost level of seating in theaters. Backstage is any place behind that proscenium line that we talked about, right? So any area that the audience is not allowed to go to. So that's on stage, that is in the wings, those are dressing rooms, those are green rooms, anything like that. The fly rail is over here on that side of the stage, but it's where all of our flying and rigging happens and controlled from. So during shows that have scenery that flies in and out or anything like that. We have a crew member, or sometimes multiple crew members depending on the size of the show, that hang out there, and their job is to pull on the ropes to make everything go in and out. And also a big part of their job is safety, because while they're pulling on these ropes for things to come in and out, it's also their job to make sure that there's nobody on stage who's gonna get hit with anything.
Actors, stage managers, and directors also have their own terms that everyone should know. This helps avoid confusion when giving stage directions. Imagine you're lying on your back with your feet pointed to the audience and your head pointing away from the audience. Your right is stage right, and your left is stage left. This is the same as if you were standing and facing the audience. Upstage is toward your head, away from the audience. Downstage is toward the audience. So, next time you go to a concert or a play put on by a national touring company, look around at the stage, the lighting, and the sound equipment, and ask yourself, how did that get there? Is it permanent? Or will it leave the building when the show moves on? And just how many people did it take to make it all possible?